Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Grev, and welcome to another episode of the Rip Roaring Reds podcast. I'm joined this evening by Jace. I would say, how are you doing, Jace? But I can imagine you're not feeling too well after that result. But how has your Sunday been?
I mean, I had a lovely lay-in, which is well needed because I was absolutely exhausted. So that was nice. And
Let's
I
say about the
watched.
rest.
Yeah, I mean, I worked out, watched the highlights of the Grand Prix. That was on ridiculously early because it was in Japan. And then I sat down to watch the football. And least said about that. Well, I don't know. We'll go into it.
Yeah, we will get.
How was your Sunday?
Yeah, much of it maybe similar. I went to my youngest went to a tennis lesson. Went to the coffee shop, so I had a nice relaxing Sunday morning. But yeah, made some cookies. So all the good things, and then hit the ground running with this result, which I was dead excited for this game. And it's such a where the enthusiasm, the passion, the excitement, the nerves, the energy come into all of this, and then you kind of deflate a little bit afterwards. It is a bit disappointing, but we're gonna talk about it. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna stick the intro music on. I don't have my water bottle with me, so I can't drink my water bottle during the music. But here it is, and then we're gonna get into Arsenal versus Spurs.
Saka. Saka! That is a dive under the goal! It's Bergkamp. That's magnificent!
This is my club. Fucking love this football club.
Henri. What a goal! Gabriel Martinelli! He's scoring for Arsenal!
Roll Gravel's muted himself. He's now off mute. It's all fine. It's the first time I've done that. So I think by episode 17 be the first time I think I'm all right. So we're going to start this one with the same way that we started everyone so far. It's our Rip Roaring review. I imagine it's not going to be a happy, lucky, lovely one, although it was quite a somber one last time, Jay. So where are you going to take us for this week's Rip Roaring review?
Yeah, look, it was a little bit somber last time. We're going to go into the game, so we're going to talk about that in depth. So I'm just going to genuinely not necessarily talk about specifically details of the Spurs game, but focus on a hunch that I have. The hunch is that the Champions League is going to hurt us in the league, because we are playing midweek. We're not playing Europa League, so we're not putting out half a decent squad, half a set of substitute and reserve players. Like, we are putting out our best 11 in the Champions League, and I think it's going to hurt us in several ways. One is that the energy levels will be lower at the weekend if we play hard in the Champions League, especially if we go away. Injuries are going to mount up, and we'll talk about that more. And I think that we are going to see some lackluster performances, and I think partly what we saw today was a lackluster performance. So my kind of initial kind of kickoff review is that I think the Champions League is going to hurt us. It also backs up my point where I think we'll be better in the Champions League than we will be in the league. I think we'll be top 4. I don't think we necessarily think. I don't think we are in a title race at the moment, but it could very quickly by Christmas be all done and dusted in City's favour, and the rest of us are playing catch up. I think the Champions League is our best opportunity, and that's my review.
Did you predict, like me, that Arsenal were going to win the league this year, Jace? Just so I can remember.
I think I said that. I think when we did our predictions, I probably did, because like my heart overhead. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I think I've been pretty vocal in saying that the Champions League is the one. I think we have I've been pretty consistent in saying that I think that is one which is a more realistic opportunity for us. And I think I stand by that. I think just from what I've seen, that that is kind of been validated a little bit. I mean, obviously there's still 5 more group games of that to go, and there'll be performances at the weekend after every group game, right? And we'll see how we perform. But I think that we are going to be impacted, and it's how we adjust and manage that. It's going to be a test. It's going to be a test.
Yeah, totally agree.
So come on, you as I don't think I was I was just realistic my review. I wasn't trying to be negative. I'm just saying how I see it. How about you? Because are you going to be? I feel like it is going to be a little more negative coming from you today.
Maybe it was just like I don't want to be negative. I will take away some positives from my Rip Roaring review, but my question here was, are we actually any good? And the reason why I ask this, if I look at now the 6 league games that we have played, we dropped points to Fulham, we dropped points to Spurs, where we went in the lead twice during this game. We scraped past Man United, albeit in some dramatic and stunning fashion that obviously we, in the cold light of day, after that game, if you were actually to truly reflect on it, you could ask yourself a question, if that goal was onside, it would have been a different game altogether. We beat Forest 2-1 at home. We scraped 1-0 victories away from home against, granted, Palace and Everton are not easy sides, but Everton are frankly dross at the moment. They're just a bit of a bogey team. So across those games, we haven't scored a lot. We haven't won by any significant margins. And I just wonder, are we actually any good? Now, we're 1 point off, worse off than this time last season. And so, if you look at it that way, it's all fine. We've got a point from an unbeaten side who are our rivals and are currently going under the radar, I think, somewhat as a kind of good team. They played well today. They really did put in a performance today. So, I don't want to kind of look past them too much. I'm just kind of really a little bit concerned, I suppose. I don't want to catastrophize it too much. But we threw away the lead twice today. And we really shouldn't have. This game probably could have been put to bed in the first half. So I do question whether or not we have the mental fortitude, the cojones, as Troy Deeney would put it, to kind of just be good. I don't know. I say we were going to win this game 4-0 yesterday, Jace. And now I'm here saying that we're not very good. So, I'm just I am a bit deflated, a bit negative, and I just kind of worried maybe a little bit more than I should be. Talk me back off the ledge, Jace, like yesterday.
Let me talk you off the ledge, because you sounded like Jason, myself. So the first 6 games of last season, we lost to United away, and I think I kept saying last year that was for me the most painful defeat of the season because we were much better. So if we analyze those first 6 games of last year and the first 6 games of this year, I think you're right. Like in your analysis, we talked about it in the last podcast, like the energy, the fact that we were at it, that's just in the league. It's not happened. It's happened in the Champions League, oddly, like PSV, it happened against PSV, but it hasn't happened in the league. And I think that the difference is teams have worked out how to play us. So we have to work. So we are still very good. But teams have worked out how to play us and they come up and play against us in a certain way. We do need to figure out that piece of the puzzle. On the other hand, if I reflect on the situation at current and then apply that situation to last season, a similar situation last season, I think we're doing better than we were last season. And what I mean by that is I don't compare the first, maybe not the first 2 games, but let's talk about like the last 4 games. I don't compare those to the first 4 or the last 4 games from this time last season. I'm comparing them to the times when we had Saliba out, we had Thomas Partey out, because when we had Gabby Jesus out, right? Fundamental players in the team who were injured, and we we were getting draws. I remember there was that period, like just after, I think after the Man United game, there was just a period, I think in March time, where we weren't getting quite the results. Like I think we were at the 3-3 against
Southampton, West Ham,
Southampton.
Liverpool.
Yeah, exactly, right. Like there were games when the pressure was on because we weren't expecting to go to a league title, but at the same time, we were missing players. We had been lucky in the first half of the season to not have injuries, and then Gabby Jesus got injured, but then we were fairly lucky still not having major injuries. And then when it actually we needed to be at the top of our game, Saliba out, Partey out, we lost the core of our squad. Now, if you look at, that's why I'm comparing it to now, right? That's why I'm trying to talk you down off the ledge. No Trossard, no Martinelli. Gabby Jesus having to play on the left wing when we know he should be playing down the middle. I think we'll both call out Arteta for his subs later. No Partey. Then second half, no Rice. Mate, we've got injuries. We've got injuries, but we're still undefeated. We're still undefeated. So
I'm still on the ledge, Jace.
I'm saying we're getting results with the caliber of squad that we have. The Premier League is the toughest league in the world. It's harder than the Champions League. That was the one thing I was going to say, actually. Like the Champions League is not as hard as the Premier League because you're playing against quality opposition in the Premier League week in, week out with much better financial strength to buy better quality players. And I do believe that the Super League in the world is the Premier League, and the Champions League wants to be the Super League, but it can't be because it doesn't have the financial power. And that's why we can go and smash PSV 4-0. So I genuinely think we're playing a very hard league, very competitive teams. We're missing our big players. That's the positive side of me. I'm thinking that, we get those players back, we click, we'll be fine. But we're missing big pieces of the puzzle. That's my long-winded trying to talk you down off the ledge. Sounds like you've jumped anyway, so sorry about that. Let me know when the funeral is. I'll be there.
Yeah, maybe I'm not there yet. Right, I'll tell you what. For Jace, who also said at the start, let's make this a shorter one. That hasn't worked out in our favour. Rip and review, 12 minutes in. Let's get on to the next segment. We're going to talk a little bit about missed opportunities and the attacking threat that came from maybe both sides. This was a game of definitely of two halves. One where I feel that we performed quite well for probably 35 to 40 minutes and probably should have maybe got a better foothold in this game. And then the second half was, a flip of the coin and a different thing. Is there anything out of kind of that you would take away from this game, right, Jace, that is the biggest missed opportunity for us that we could have done with and that would have maybe won the game?
There are a few. There's one in particular I want to talk about. I want to talk about the subs. Before I do that, though, I would say if Jesus puts that chance away, then we're taking our chances. But the point was Jesus was getting in positions. He was maybe not as energetic as he was against PSV, but he was also playing and having to play a different position, which we've not really asked him to play before on the left wing. But he was effective. And so for me, I would have made some different substitutions. I would have probably taken Eddie off. I'd have put Jesus through the middle, and I'd have brought Reiss Nelson on. I'd also have done it sooner because Reiss Nelson's been pretty effective when he's come on the wing. And I think if you've got Jesus through the middle, I think that there's just a nous there that with more experience. If you have Nelson, Saka, and Eddie as your front line going into the last 20 minutes of the North London derby, I respect all of those players, especially Saka, obviously, as our star boy. But it doesn't sound as scary as having Nelson, Jesus, and Saka. There's a bit of experience and nous that we needed. I feel like we made the wrong I feel like we could have made different substitutions. I mean, Havertz coming on so early was a little bit of a surprise. I'm not necessarily saying it was wrong because Fabio, for me, made a number of mistakes giving balls away and being a bit lazy in the first half. But at the same time, when you take Rice out of the team as well, because of what we think, we'll talk about it, but we think he might have a calf injury. But you make the subs, for me, they were wrong. They were all done at the wrong time. You change the team too much. You then have to adjust. You're ruining the flow. I would have just done the whole substitutions, in my opinion, a little differently. Like the other thing, like bringing Smith Rowe on with 3 minutes to go.
It is
What? That, like, why? Like, Smith Rowe loves the North London derby. He's been awesome in a couple of North London derbies, especially the one 2 years ago that you and I were at. So that for me, I was like, I'd have brought him on left wing. He can be devastating. I'd have brought him. I'd have taken Havertz off after half an hour, bringing him on and put Smith Rowe in that position. Like, yeah, I would have. It's not that I would have, because I don't know why. I have much more confidence that there can be a cut back to Smith Rowe, and if Smith Rowe's on the outside of anywhere around that kind of outside the box, just inside the box, he's gonna take a shot and likely get a goal, because it's just what he does. I'm really getting a bit frustrated that we're not giving him more opportunities. Because when he had an opportunity, I thought he was great against PSV when he came on as a little cameo. So yeah, I don't know. The subs just wound me up a little bit. But still behind the manager. I just would have done things differently today.
Yeah,
Anything you would have changed with the subs?
Yeah, maybe. I kind of agree with you. And Arteta feels like, well, I'd actually say the starting 11 is probably our biggest missed opportunity. I think I don't understand why Eddie started this game. It didn't feel to me a game that Eddie would start. It's not a game that really, I feel, suits him as a striker, both in terms of their game plan and the opposition. I feel like Jesus, and then I think we discussed probably Vieira, Havertz, Nelth. You know, there's loads of options at left wing that we could try. I think one thing it was really interesting to watch. I've not watched hardly any Spurs this season other than highlights. And Johnson came on, and I think the commentary team made a good point about it, that he just wasn't tracking back, and maybe that's part of the reason why Jesus was brought in at left wing, because he does so much tracking, he does so much supporting of the left back. And that's something we really need, because Zinchenko kind of inverse. And so we do find ourselves quite often with Gabriel at left back. We saw it a lot during this game in particular, where he's been probably put on toast, to be honest, by a lot of players, because he's not his natural position and can get easily caught either ball watching or under his feet, and kind of gets, a bit kind of. So I would imagine the starting 11 for me is a little bit wrong. I'd also say the goals for me was our biggest problem. Once again, is really our lack of cutting instincts from open play. Like Saka's goal was going wide. I don't think it was going in, even if it had travelled. I mean, no one's to be sure, right? But I'm just looking. So. Yeah, but and obviously Romero's hit that into the back of his own net, and then he scored a penalty. Can't really remember many other clear-cut opportunities we had. We obviously had, I think, if Romero hadn't handballed it on the line, it would have gone in. So that for me was why I thought it was a penalty. I agree. I've seen a lot of commentary about the Man United one. There was a Man United one a few weeks back that was similar, that didn't get given.
I was screaming at the TV. I was like, look, it's that the Oxlade-Chamberlain one. Obviously, when he dived. But I was like, at the end of the day, like, the hand has stopped the ball from going a minute. That's a goal. Are you allowed to touch the ball with your hand? Are you allowed to touch the ball with your hand? No.
I suppose it's the natural shape of the body, because it's rather a ball to hand than hand to ball. But at the same time, his positioning, he stopped that clear kind of goal. Anyway, so what I'm kind of saying is that we didn't really score today, and that go on.
No, I was going to say, well, Eddie had the chance through on goal, put it in the side netting. No one was there for him to cut it back. When Tottenham had some defensive errors, didn't they? There was the one where the pass back that Eddie had through on goal, but he was at a tight angle, and then Maddison messing up and Jesus putting it well over the bar. So we had chances, but we didn't necessarily make them ourselves, apart from our press.
I can't remember often testing their keeper either. That's one of the things that I kind of look back on and kind of think, did we or did we not? Maybe in the emotionality of the game that you don't really recognize it in the moment, but looking, I just can't seem to recall.
I feel like we really missed chances in the first half. It would have put the game to bed. We had chances in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked before
rubber.
about having a proper number 9. Like, are we gonna next summer? Is it going to be the Evan Ferguson, the Ivan Toney summer? Who knows? I just don't know whether or not you had a proper number 9. Would you score those goals?
Well, we were whipping crosses after cross after cross in the end of the game, weren't we? And there was no one getting on the head again on them. So
I mean, they made a really good point about that as well, though, because we stopped for a while in just whipping balls into the box because we knew we had no one that was really going to be getting on the end of them, and we had to be much more direct. And that's why towards the end, both of our teams seemed quite happy with a draw. It felt quite formulaic in the passing at the back. So maybe that's another missed opportunity that we didn't take.
Yeah, I mean, put it this way, I would snap Ivan Toney. I mean, I'd do it in January, if I'm completely honest. Because he's available from January, isn't he? So his band's up. So I'd do it. I just think that it'll cost us an arm and a leg. That's the problem.
Yeah, we'll see. Right. Go on.
I was going to say, Nketiah was poor as well today. I don't think he was great.
I don't know. I agree with you. He was poor, but I just, like I said, I don't feel this was a game that was made for him. And so, although we know what Eddie Nketiah can and cannot do, so if you're trying to split hairs over why isn't he doing X, Y, and Z, it just feels counterintuitive to the whole argument because we know his limitations. And if you know his limitations, I mean, this is not to the point where someone's playing him week in, week out because he's got pictures of his family or something. You know what I mean? I do feel that Arteta's got some affinity to Eddie Nketiah that is maybe blurring the lines between when he should and should not start games.
Yeah. How's Flo Balogun doing? I haven't actually looked.
He missed a penalty yesterday, by the way. So
okay,
throw that out there. Right. We'll move on to a session which is called Where to Start. There were a lot of mistakes out there today, and no one really shined bright across our team. Is there anything or moment in particular, Jace, that you would look at and go, that is the mistake that cost us this game?
Wow. I mean, okay, I'm going to take the obvious one. Jorginho, rusty. Very rusty. So, I mean, how long did he have with the Tottenham's second goal? How long did he have the ball at his feet for? He had the ball for about probably, I reckon, 5 seconds.
I reckon it's more. I reckon it's more.
More than that. The replay, it looked a long time. He didn't play a pass. He couldn't decide where to play a pass. He was being indecisive. He was messing around with the ball at his feet, but he was in plenty of space. And then before he'd known it, he was messing around for so long that then the Spurs player was on him. And then it was it. He just lost it. Like that. I'm going to be critical. I have to be critical of the Sunday League. It was really bad. For a professional footballer, that was awful. He could have done anything in that circumstance. He could have passed it early. He could have played a really simple, easy pass. I don't know what was going through his head where he was trying to find a specific pass that he was looking for, or the pass he wanted and wasn't there and he was being indecisive. I don't know what he was doing. But if in doubt, just boot it. Just kick it out. Do whatever. But don't lose the ball. And it wound me up. And then he lost it once or twice more after, actually, in fairly vulnerable positions as well later on. So, for me, that was just a really bad second half cameo from Jorginho. And it concerns me that our midfield could be relying on him moving forwards for a few weeks. Because not only, I mean, he is a good player. Right? We've seen him play well for us, and I think we've seen him play effectively for Chelsea as well, even though some Chelsea fans moan about him. I'm more worried about what it does for his confidence more than anything, because it was a hard game to be thrust into with having hardly any game time.
I mean, he's a big boy though, right? And he's the thing is as well, you can't blame. We've seen Saliba do that turn in the last 2 games in beating a player on the press 3 times, I think, in succession, and he's done it fantastically well. Jorginho tried the same thing, and you know, Saliba's young and experienced. Like, there's Jorginho can't be naive, like you say, in Sunday League style, to not do the right thing in that position. It is criminal. And we never have an opportunity. It's very rare that we have an opportunity like that against an opposition team to take advantage of. There was, you know, that one with Jesus took it off Maddison was the only one, and he missed that opportunity. Spurs didn't, so maybe that is the difference maker.
Yeah, I just think it was. Yeah, I get your point, but I mean, I don't know. For me, put it this way: you're showing an example there of Saliba versus Jorginho. My confidence in Saliba is up here. My confidence in Jorginho is more middle. Saliba, yeah, he may be young. He may not have been playing the game as long as Jorginho, but like he's at the top of his game. I think I saw in one of your notes when we were writing notes while the game was on. I fucking love Saliba, which you I think it was what you wrote. So, you know, I think that it shows that the level of confidence that we have in him and his capability with the ball at his feet. It's just that he's mature beyond his years. I believe, and you know, the Jorginho example, we expect more from Jorginho because he should be mature, unfortunately, that was just, he knows it's a mistake. I saw his I think it was an Instagram post from him saying like basically like, I'm sorry, like, and basically like everyone, the players, the staff, the fans, like, thank you for your support after I made the mistake. You all deserve the best version of me. So I think he's hurting, and that's fair. It's just unfortunately the wrong game to make that mistake. Biggest game of the season, really, for Arsenal fans. So yeah. Go on then, tell me. I've taken the obvious one. What about you? What's what did or did not go so well for you?
There's probably 2. I'm going to start with Raya. It was really funny, actually, because for those peek behind the curtain a little bit, we write notes together. I could see Jace writing a note about the intrepidation of Raya at the back, who was nervy in his passing, in his confidence. Maybe it was a big game to be thrust into on his 3rd start in an Arsenal shirt. And then he made an absolutely unbelievable save. He made this save, which he should not have made. And so if I take that save off the table, that doesn't get away from the fact that he did, by all accounts, compared to his first 2 flashes in Arsenal, a poor game. His distribution was way off. He kicked out our play at least 4 times from what I can remember. He was really, and one of the things he always, and that's obviously why we brought him in, his distribution in long balls is much greater than Ramsdale's. Yeah, he seems unsure to do a shorter pass when it's on. It's like he's kind of like, I need to play the long ball. That's the game that I've been told to play. That's the realm that I should be performing in. I should stay away from those short, easy balls when I've got a long pass option that's open to me, and I should try it. And in some scenarios, that just felt to me misadvised. I would say there were opportunities where we're able to play it quite confidently from the back, and maybe we just didn't take it. So Raya first for me, and then second was Ødegaard, who, off the back of a contract signing and committing his future and tying the knot with Arsenal this week, to dropping probably one of his worst performances, I think, in an Arsenal shirt that I can at least recall. I looked, because on the eye test, he did seem to be relatively, his press was really good. I would say he was pressing, but he did seem to be doing it quite often on his own. We weren't necessarily doing it in packs as we have previously. So maybe that for him was a frustrating part of our game, is that he felt like he was doing that and probably setting in some fatigue within himself where he couldn't count on his compadres to do their part. He had 48 touches this game. 48 touches, which is mad. It? Yeah, I know.
That's
crazy.
Low for him.
18 passes this game. 64% accuracy. So that's like, it must be like 12 to 13 passes that actually were accurate. And he lost possession 19 times. Lost possession 19 times. That's more than the passes he made. So yeah, I don't know. It just feels like this is a really big match that someone of his quality, his caliber, the ceiling we've talked about, and all the, all of the things that we've discussed in previous pods. Now coming to this moment and underperforming was just really, really poor on his part, and really something that I just look back on, because there's not many players in this 11 or, across the bench as well that could hold their heads high. I think Saliba and Saka are probably the only two that I would look at this game and kind of go, they performed to the level I expected them to. The rest, maybe Zinchenko could be included in that. But even you're shaking your head. So there's a lot you could go across this game, but I wanted to call out those two specifically because those two feel like the biggest missed opportunity.
So I disagree with some of the things you say though, and agree with some others. So Saliba, yeah, absolutely Rolls Royce at the back, and I think his stability in the second half helped us tremendously with not making us more vulnerable. Like, we are solid at the back, especially the second half. We were solid. Like, the Jorginho mistake made the defense vulnerable. It wasn't their fault. And apart from that, in the second half, we were solid at the back, and that's, I think that's a credit. And he was a standout performer. I disagree with Saka holding his head high. I know he got the goal and scored the pen. The pen was given to him. He still had to score it, granted, but we expect him to score it. And obviously, the only chance I remember him creating was the one where it was the Romero own goal. Like, I didn't see enough end product from him today. Like, the things that he was involved with, two things that I can remember, both resulted in goals. However, what we actually need from him, I don't feel we saw. I think he's tired, if I'm honest. I think he's absolutely knackered.
Is this 86 games in succession that he started or something like that? It's like a record. So his fatigue is definitely going to be setting in. You could tell as well when he came limping off. I don't think that's injury. I just think that is soreness, stiffness, tiredness, all rolled into one.
Yeah, I look at this and I go, Tottenham, we need our big players to turn up. That's what it is. That's what we expect in a North London derby. And I think Rice was doing pretty decent for his first North London derby. He knew what it meant. You could see him on the bench how annoyed he was that he wasn't playing the second half. And we needed Odegaard to turn up, and we needed Saka to turn up. And I don't. Yeah, this may sound like I'm being overcritical because I appreciate that Saka had 2 goal contributions, but those are the only things. And one of those goal contributions was a penalty, and the other one we got very lucky that it got deflected in, and that was it. I don't know. Like, we didn't, and we need more. I love Saka. He's our best player by far, bar Odegaard. So I don't want to lay into him. I'm more saying the guy needs a rest because we need him to turn up in these big performances. And we didn't buy anyone in the transfer window that can be a backup to him. So he's playing every game, and it's showing. It's not. I'm not trying to be critical of Saka. I'm more trying to be critical of the man management of the player, maybe. And I think we paid for that today. I think the same with Odegaard as well, actually, if I'm completely honest. I don't remember a game he hasn't played either. He was going to have a bad
I mean,
game as well. This
Yeah.
wasn't the game to have a bad game.
I have one. I mean, we're playing Bournemouth next. That's probably one that you could.
Yeah, because you can bring in Fabio to turn it on or whatever. But yeah. So yeah,
I mean,
I agree and disagree with what you say.
Yeah, I mean Saka though as well. Like he had, I don't know how is it Udogi? I don't know how to pronounce it. He had him on toast the entire first half. Like literally, he was worried for his life. He literally had the beating with him, and he didn't do it enough. And I think you've called it out so many times. The time when Ben White overlaps is the time when he's able to cut inside and make that goal happen. It's happened on so many occasions, so we don't do it enough. And so that's where we need it to happen more, and it didn't happen in this game either. I don't know why.
Once.
Yep. So
happened once, and then we're lucky we scored from it.
Yeah, that's what, so if we do that more, then maybe we get more in a foothold in this game. But like I say, there's not many players that could hold their heads relatively high in this game. We talked about Saka there, and maybe he's going to be able to listen. This segment is called Injury FC. We were quite robust last season until the wheels came off in March, April time, as you kind of said earlier. But now it seems like the roles have been reversed, and we're kind of in this position now where there's a string of muscular issues that are mounting up for us, or maybe niggling injuries that are mounting up for us at maybe the wrong time, and we're losing some of our key players. I think I wanted to just start this segment, right, Jace? But for me, when Rice came off injured at halftime, flipped this game on its head. You were right in saying that I think he had a relatively good performance up until the second half, and then obviously wasn't feeling it and couldn't carry on, and that really changed it for us. And now we're sitting here with both of our first choice defensive midfielders sat on out for however long we're going to set them out for. I'd hope that Rice isn't long term, that it could be a week or two. It's just maybe some soreness or some muscular kind of injury. But Partey's still probably 3 to 4 weeks out, I'm guessing. We're going to be heading into some games relying on El Neni and Jorginho, which is scary.
Yeah, I mean it is scary, right? We can't do anything. We can't change the past. I've always said we should have never sold Xhaka. Just let him go on a free, because we could do with him now. Not that he necessarily plays that position actually, that we actually need. The number 6 position. I guess Jorginho is the backup, but we are lacking depth in the midfield. As I said, like I wanted to bring in Rice and keep our existing midfield, or if we were going to bring in Rice and let Xhaka go, then I wanted to bring in Caicedo as well, or whoever. Well, maybe not Caicedo now, but another midfielder, because I felt we were lacking depth there. Just pray to God. It's as you say, it's a muscle injury. It's kind of very much they've seen it. They've heard from him at half time, because he played the whole of the second half. He didn't come off in the first half. He played till half time. So he's obviously said something at half time, and they've gone, yeah, you're the only number 6 we have. You're not going back on. Like
we're playing Man City in 2 weeks' time. So
yeah. We basically like you're not going back on. You're not going back on. We cannot take that risk, because we're learning. That's for me a lesson learned, because the lesson learned was Timber, right? Timber. It's fine. I'll play on. Or he was told to play on, and then a couple of minutes later, he's out for the season. So I think that's us learning our lesson, which is fine, but. Yeah, the injuries are mounting up, and I would say that's a quite substantial chunk of our starting 11 that's not fit right now. Partey, Rice, Timber, Martinelli, and then one of Martinelli or Trossard's going to play left wing. It's 4 players out of 11. It's a big hole. I think I put Timber in our starting 11, by the way. I genuinely think the way he was playing, I think he is a starting 11 player, whether it's Ben White or Zinchenko. I actually think it's Zinchenko, actually.
I mean, it's amazing though to think that Zinchenko usually not very good at playing 90 minutes per game. He usually does come off earlier. He's usually pretty riddled with some form of injury. If that was to rear its head, then we're starting to get into some real tough situations where Tomiyasu is probably playing as our inverted left back, as he has been trialing that out, as he has been coming on.
Yeah. Our depth in certain positions is looking not as deep as we thought. So, yeah.
I suppose injuries have that's
time.
why we have these players, is to kind of hopefully cover those injuries. And if these are short term, then hopefully, beating Everton, beating United, beating PSV, drawing with Spurs with those injuries and then coming back, you can look past it because it's not a big deal if you're getting the points that you need to get out of those games. That you have to maybe look back on it without the rose tinted glasses or whatever else. Let's hope they're not too bad.
Absolutely, Grev. Come off the ledge.
There we go. Maybe I taught myself off the ledge.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I think it's good.
All right. Right. So that's the injuries. The less said about that game, probably the better at this point. Let's talk a little bit in the parking lot. There's only one subject that we had. We've got another game coming up on Wednesday. Our League Cup game against Brentford. Now, I said to Jace just before we went on the air that there's probably at least 2 or 3 players out of this starting 11 that play today that are going to have to play against Brentford. But it's a game that we shouldn't give 2 hoots about, really. The League Cup is a nothing competition, if I'm honest. I don't know what you think, Jace. Where do you stand on the whole starting 11, this competition, etc.?
Difficult one, because I kind of want to just say I don't care about the League Cup, but the only thing that makes me slightly care about it is the fact that City have won it so many times, and it's been like a kickstart for the rest of their season for their league title challenges, and so seeing them do that so many times. So that's the only thing that makes me think, like we should probably take this a little bit seriously. On the other hand, I think the reality is you have to look at the injuries that we have now, and we know where our priorities are. And so, I'm kind of like I don't care about the League Cup. I mean, who are we going to play? Like, let's list the starting lineup. Ramsdale in goal. Cedric at right back, because we need to give Ben White a rest. Yeah, I know, Cedric at right back, but I said it. Centre backs. Kivior and...
So you're going to have to play one in Saliba or Gabriel?
I think it'll be Gabriel.
You can't. You have. I mean, so do I. But you're going to have to, right?
Yeah, I think Saliba will be rested. I think it'll be Gabriel. Left back, Tomiyasu.
Yeah.
Midfield, El Neni. Possibly Jorginho if he's going to have to come for Rice, because he could be good to get him some game time. Odegaard needs to be rested, so you're probably putting Fabio in there.
ESR.
I think ESR plays left wing.
You don't think
Nelson
I think when a combo Fabio do you think Havertz plays as the 9 then?
Well, I think ESR plays left wing. Reece plays right. Saka needs to be rested. I don't know who. Maybe Havertz plays. I'm not sure. I guess we don't have. Again, that's where the depth suddenly goes. Because do we want to play Jesus or Eddie? I guess I'd probably play Eddie, if I'm honest. Maybe. So maybe Eddie keeps playing. He needs to.
But then we play Bournemouth next. You think that Eddie Nketiah can probably do better in that game than Jesus would potentially? It's just, for me, there's a lot of decisions that Arteta has to make with this game in particular that kind of feel poisoned a little bit, because no matter what choice he makes, it's going to be the wrong one. If it all goes awry, another injury, all of that kind of questions.
I'd play I'd definitely be having some of the under 21 in the lineup. Maybe
Nwaneri or Koizia Dubry.
Koizia Dubry, a couple of those guys maybe. So mean, that's what the League Cup's for, in a way, for us at times. So let's give them the opportunity. I'd be intrigued to know if Brentford are going to come out with their Premier League first team because they think it's a trophy they can go far in, or whether they're going to play their reserves as well, right? So I think, yeah, that's the XI, right? That's the thing is, that's the XI, because we don't want to play our first team. We want to rest them, and those are the only other players we have left.
Yep, it's a really tough decision.
Yeah, our depth is, we have depth, but we're getting injuries. So it's a good job we do have depth.
Just not with 5 players out, and 5 of our really big kind of players as well.
Yeah, exactly. I guess so. So Timber, they're saying, might be quicker than maybe thought. It'll be in the new year, but maybe not as late in the season because he's already been pictured without his brace. Gary Martinelli, we're hoping that's a couple of weeks. Partey's 3 to 4 weeks. Trossard, unknown, was what I was reading. We don't know. He limped out of training. We don't know how long. He hasn't been assessed properly yet. Rice, we don't know.
Let's look on the maybe silver linings and Jason, kind of hope that Declan Rice particularly is back in wish him a speedy recovery, because I feel that out of all of those players, he is probably the most pivotal to but like I said, we got Man City in 2 weeks. We cannot afford to be going into that game with a Jorginho or an El Neni as our pivot.
No, we can't. And the thing is, we've seen what happens when Jorginho plays against Man City, Arsenal's midfield.
Yeah, I don't want to see it again.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay, right. Well, that concludes Arsenal 2, Spurs 2. It was a very cathartic session, so thank you, Jace. We look forward to a game on Wednesday, like we say, against Brentford, and then we're playing Bournemouth this weekend. I am off on holiday, so me and Jace will hopefully try and arrange to see how we will fit these games in. I'm sure we'll figure it out some way, shape, or form. If you're watching on YouTube, what should they be doing, Jace?
Give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave us any comments or questions.
And on their podcast provider of choice,
please give us a 5-star review, 5 stars, no less, and a nice comment if you want.
They're currently all 5-star on there at the moment. I checked yesterday, so please don't ruin that for us. I'm enjoying 5-star reviews. That's it. I'm just baiting someone now to give us less than 5. Don't mean to do it. Please don't do it. Right. That is us. We will speak to you again in the week. And come on, you Rip Roaring Reds.
Cheers, guys. Take care.